Some of the most eyebrow-raising things that Representative Santos allegedly spent money on: OnlyFans, Botox treatments, and designer clothing. Money that was given to him by people who thought they were contributing to his campaign.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest news makers of the week. I am happy to report that George Santos' days are numbered in Congress. That's because there was an ethics report that was just released by the House Ethics Committee and their investigative subcommittee that is absolutely scathing, and is going to result in the head of the Ethics Committee filing a resolution to once again try to expel George Santos. We're going to get into all of that, including Santos's completely narcissistic reaction. Surprise, surprise, he's playing victim here. But before we get into all this stuff, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see and hear in this or any of the other videos on this channel, please be sure to smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff, because as you know, it all feeds that YouTube algorithm.
Feed me, Carbon! Feed me now!
As you know, that algorithm's got to get fed on a regular basis, and that's how people find the show. So because you guys are doing that, we're finding more and more of an audience. The channel is growing. It's all because of you. Thank you so much for all that you do. So if you're a regular on the show, you know that I've done many videos about George Santos. You guys should know the well-documented history of the lies of this scumbag, and it seems like finally we're going to see the comeuppance that we're all looking for, and that is this clown, this buffoon, getting kicked out of Congress. Let's check out a news story detailing some of the highlights of the House Ethics Committee report.
After a scathing report from the House Ethics Committee, Representative George Santos of New York announcing on X, the site formerly known as Twitter, he will no longer seek re-election in 2024. In a statement, Congressman Santos saying, quote, "I will continue my mission to serve my constituents up until I am allowed. I will, however, not be seeking re-election for a second term in 2024, as my family deserves better than to be under the gun from the press all the time."
So already we see the beginning of what's going to be a theme for George Santos. This theme of victimhood. This narcissist thinks that he is the one under attack, and he and his family have been enduring this pressure from the press. Not that he's done anything wrong, of course, to warrant this pressure, but he seems to think he's the victim of all this. This is main character syndrome run amok. It's actually main character syndrome on steroids when you think about it.
While the report from the House Ethics Committee did not make any recommendations about whether to remove Representative Santos from Congress, it was indeed scathing. In an excerpt of that report, the Ethics Committee finding that Representative Santos sought to fraudulently exploit every aspect of his House candidacy for his own personal financial profit. They said he blatantly stole from his campaign and deceived donors into providing what they thought were contributions to his campaign, but were in fact payments for his own personal benefit.
That's not the only fraud. We've talked about it in previous videos, and I'm going to put some of them in the upper right-hand corner of the screen so you can see them throughout this video. They'll also be down below in the description of the video. George Santos's lies didn't start when he got to Congress. They started when he was a candidate for office for Congress. He lied to friends of mine who work on campaigns and who were assisting him unwittingly to dupe everyone. By the time they found out who he really was, of course, they quit campaigning for him. And there's going to be a lot of their story to come in the future. And I'll be sure to highlight that to you guys in the coming months. But George Santos was lying to everyone all the time. He lied about his finances to the Nassau GOP. He lied to his own staffers about his intentions with the campaign. The lies were just mounting. And the way that parties work, unfortunately, is reputation is key. So someone recommends someone else to someone within the party. And once that reputation sticks there, once that recommendation is made, it sort of goes up the chain to national GOP and the RNC and all that, to the point where it's like a big game of telephone. That's what happened with George Santos here. Hopefully there'll be better vetting of candidates in the future by every level of party apparatus because of this guy. But at the same time here, I can understand how people could get duped with a big game of telephone that party politics can turn out to be.
Some of the most eyebrow-raising things that Representative Santos allegedly spent money on: OnlyFans, Botox treatments, and designer clothing.
Wow, that's just brazen. It's arrogant. It's audacious. Did he think nobody would find out about that? Absolutely crazy. And the Botox injections, of course, that feeds into his vanity.
Is definitely my favorite sin.
That was given to him by people who thought they were contributing to his campaign. The House Ethics Committee not issuing recommendations to remove him from Congress, instead saying, quote, Representative Santos is entitled to due process and will have his day in court, and the House should take whatever action it deems appropriate in light of the investigative subcommittee's findings.
Now, that's all true, of course. The House Ethics Committee did not make any formal recommendation on what to do with George Santos. They did refer matters to the Department of Justice for further investigation, but beyond the House Ethics Committee's non-recommendation, the chair of the committee, Mike Guest, is taking action on his own in response to his own report. And Congressman Guest's actions are in the form of this resolution, House Resolution 878, providing for the expulsion of George Santos. We've talked about resolutions before. They can be brought by a member of Congress at any point. It's a privileged resolution. It goes right to the House floor for a vote once it's noticed properly. Mike Guest, as the head of the Ethics Committee, may not have recommended any formal action to be had by Congress, but he's taking action on his own based upon his own committee's investigative report. Let's go through the resolution and its wording. Now, just like with the resolution censuring Rashida Tlaib, there's going to be a lot of whereas clauses, a lot of preamble here explaining and justifying the action to be taken. Again, the action is simply to expel George Santos from Congress based upon the constitutional powers of the Congress. So, whereas George Santos is a member of Congress, and after his election in November of 2022, his background came under public scrutiny. There were lies about his family background, lies about his educational background, lies about his financial background and his actual occupation. And then the lies came out about his campaign finance and all that. His treasurer ended up pleading guilty to federal charges as well. It's all here, including the impaneling of the investigative subcommittee of the Ethics Committee, the ISC, to review whether Representative Santos may have engaged in unlawful activity with respect to his campaign, his failure to properly disclose required information, and conflict of interest law violations in connection with his role in a firm providing fiduciary services, and engaged in very adult misconduct towards an individual seeking employment in his congressional office. Whereas the ISC met multiple times, and as you'll see in the resolution, they also afforded an opportunity for George Santos to respond to allegations. But the ISC determined in its investigation there were substantial evidence of violations of federal law and the rules of the House, and additional violations related to falsely reporting loans, and additional errors and omissions in his 2020 and 2022 financial disclosures. Remember, George Santos didn't just run for Congress for the first time in 2022. He ran also in 2020. He got about 45% of the vote. The district was then redrawn during the redistricting process and ended up being more favorable to Republicans. So after those lines were redrawn, George Santos kind of tripped into a good district. And that's why he ended up running, and that's why he ultimately ended up winning.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Whereas the ISC that was established to review the allegations against Santos adopted a report, and whereas the Ethics Committee unanimously adopted the report, knowingly caused his campaign committee to file false and incomplete reports, was a knowing and active participant in the wrongdoing, was given an opportunity to submit a signed written statement responding to the allegations, but did not do so, and whereas the investigative subcommittee requested Santos provide all documents, and he failed to do so. And whereas, we're going to keep on going, whereas Santos must be held accountable to the highest standards of conduct in order to safeguard the public's faith in this institution. Resolved that pursuant to Article 1, Section 5, Clause 2 of the Constitution, Santos be and is hereby expelled from the U.S. House of Representatives.
Everybody got that?
This is coming, folks, in a matter of days. TikTok, Mr. Santos, your time is up soon. But what's more interesting than all of this, in my opinion, it's what's going to come after the break, which is an examination of Santos's reaction on Twitter, currently called X, showing his complete and absolute hubris, even in the face of this scathing report and this resolution. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. So, after this House Ethics Committee report was made public, Santos went to Twitter to say all this, and oh my God, is this long-winded and stupid. If there was a single ounce of ethics in the Ethics Committee, they would not have released this bias report. Okay, what were they supposed to do? Not release a report after months and months of information gathering from February to now? Were they supposed to not release anything? And bias report? Didn't you have an opportunity to submit documents, Mr. Santos, and you failed to do so? Now, I can understand why you wouldn't submit documents, because then in your federal cases, you'd kind of be pigeonholed and left with information that you had submitted under oath. I get that. But that was still your choice to do that. This isn't a bias report. This is a reporting of the facts uncovered by the House. The committee went to extraordinary lengths to smear myself and my legal team about me not being forthcoming. My legal bill suggests otherwise. So again, you made that your choice not to be forthcoming. It's a legal, tactical choice. You chose to make it. You had every right to make it. But don't slam the committee for releasing a report that you chose not to participate in its creation. It is disgusting, politicized smear that shows the depths of how low our federal government has sunk. Everyone who participated in this grave miscarriage of justice should all be ashamed of themselves. We, the people, desperately need an Article 5 constitutional convention. Now, would you want to get rid of the powers of Congress to expel their own? That's in the Constitution. Is that what you're insinuating? That Congress should not be able to expel members like this? I sincerely hope not. I think that Congress has the right to police their own body. And that right is in the Constitution currently. It should definitely remain there. And as far as politicized smear, this is a bipartisan effort to get rid of you, sir. It's not just Republicans. It's not just Democrats. It's everyone. There was a poll in January after you were sworn in where 80%, close to 80% of your own constituents wanted you to resign, yet you have chosen not to do so. And what have you done in your time in Congress? Let's take a look. In Congress, according to congress.gov, you have introduced 32 bills, all different subjects, all different issues. And where are those bills right now? Let's go through it. Salt Relief Act. This is for property taxes in New York State. Introduced, no co-sponsors. Executive Mental Competency Protection Act. Introduced, no co-sponsors. Equality and Fiscal Accountability Protection Act. Introduced, no co-sponsors. It goes on and on like this. 32 bills where you've gotten one co-sponsor on any of them. And that was Congressman Gozer for a bill, and I'm going to pull to it right now. Here it is. The Defund the CCP on Campus Act, which Congressman Gozer was the only one to co-sponsor. Again, introduced, did not go any further. This is your legacy, Congressman. Nothing got done because of who you are. Public service life was never a goal or a dream, but I stepped up to the occasion when I felt my country needed it the most. On this, I will call complete and utter bullshit. He ran in 2020. He ran in 2022. This man was seeking office for many years. He was putting out press releases. I was receiving them. He was putting out press releases in the off year, touting his education at Baruch College, which turned out to be a lie. Touting his family, which turned out to be many lies as well. Touting his financial background. Again, lie upon lie upon lie. This man was seeking office for many years. This isn't something he was just thrust into and he answered the call. This beautiful narrative he wants to put forward, it's all complete and utter nonsense. And it doesn't stop there, because we get some more of the "oh, poor me" from George Santos later on in that day when he talks about my year from hell. Are you believing the gall, the audacity of this person? Running for office was never a dream or a goal. He's pushing that line hard. Looking back today, I know one thing. Politics is indeed dirty. Dirty from the very bottom up. Can we get some violin music underneath this, maybe? Consultants, operatives, the opposition, the party, and more. The one thing I never knew was that the process in Congress was dirty. I will continue to fight for what I believe in, and I will never back down. What the Ethics Committee did today was not part of due process. What they did was poison a jury pool on my ongoing investigation with the DOJ. This was a dirty bias act, and one that tramples all over my rights. And he promises a press conference on November 30th at 8 a.m., which, by the way, is probably the day that Mike Guest's expulsion resolution will be taken up by the House. Isn't it convenient that he's going to try to get out in front of it at 8 a.m. on the steps of the Capitol? As for me, I can't wait to see it. That day, I have it marked on my calendar. I got it circled in red. I can't wait for George Santos expulsion day in the Congress.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.